Hello and welcome to the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson. That's me. The idea of fear in your life and how different types of fear, different types of, we'll call it anxiety, although I feel like that word is just thrown around everywhere. And in all different types of ways, the effect it has on our lives and honestly how it drives everyday culture here in America, I believe, is something that we need to talk about. And so I don't have notes on this or anything else. I'm just simply going to pull it from this old rusty brain of mine and see where it goes, but I feel led to talk about it, so that's what we're going to do. So let's start at the very beginning. As we're young and going through life, I know I was raised in the '80s, so it was a whole different life for us. But in the '80s, your entire childhood was based off of fear. Don't go here; people will snatch you up. Don't go do this because it will kill you. And don't do this because you're going to die, and things like that. I remember when I raised my own kids, when they were young, I remember saying words like this: listen, do you want to get hurt? No. Then don't do this. Listen, that right there is a road. You cannot play in that road. You can go this far in the yard, but once you get to the sidewalk, you will not go out of the sidewalk. And we had to lay those boundaries down. Why, Pop? Why can't I do that? Well, you will die. You cannot do that. Those cars, the drivers, it was a rough neighborhood anyhow. And I mean, there was a drive-by like the day before we moved into this neighborhood. And, this was on the east side of Indianapolis. And goodness, it was a rough neighborhood either way. So Washington and rural, if you're from there, you know where I'm talking about. And we lived close to New York Street, so you drive up the way a little piece, and it got rough. And that entire area, there was a lot of drug activity, and it was poor. I mean, we were poor, so you had to do what you had to do. But I mean, I raised kids in that area for a while. The first 6 years of their life was raised there. So, first 8 years, sorry. And either way, so fear, you had to know when not to go outside, when to go, when to get inside. There was the, tornadoes, all this other stuff. And where I was raised in an area called Fountain Square, it was not too far from an area that we called Twin Air, where now there's, I guess, a police station, but I haven't been there in a year or so. But either way, it was a rough neighborhood growing up. The most peaceful time that we had growing up was when the Outlaw Biker Club kept the peace. They moved on a street called Woodlawn, and I lived on Pleasant Street. It was East Pleasant, so it wasn't like the main Pleasant. If you're from that area, you know what I'm talking about. But 2136 East Pleasant Street was and they even changed the address. It's so strange how everything changes over the years, but it's artsy, kind of area now. And I mean, there's still some poor folk, but when I was growing up right there at that address, it was poor. Like, we could see through the floor when we moved in there. I don't know how the state gave my grandmother permission to keep us, but when they did the tour, the angels must have like blocked their view or something, because I mean, there was boards laying over the joists so that you could walk on them. And there was an area in the back of the house where it became our restroom. You could literally look through the wall and see the train tracks across the field behind the house. And so there was, it was a rat hole for when we first moved in. So, we were raised on fear. Don't do this or you will get beaten. Don't do this or you will die. Don't do this or you will whatever. Nowadays, the idea of that fear, it's even deeper, because It might ruin your image, and everything today is based off of image. In social engineering, the term optics is used, and the optics is how you make your decision based off of the particular audience. Let's just say like reading the room. How my demeanor is when I enter a room dictates how I'm perceived, and that's always been the case. But now there's more of a psychological aspect of it, and I know I'm getting into the weeds a little bit on this, and half of y'all probably don't want to hear this, but if you bear with me just for a few more minutes, we can set this thing up, and then we don't have to do it again. But how you enter the room makes a difference on how you're perceived. Let me give you 2 examples. You enter the room, and you don't talk to anybody. Your head's low. You're looking at the floor. You just, someone says, "Hey, what's up?" And you're, and you go and do whatever people do when they're, when they don't want to be bothered. That's your mentality for the day. That's set up your perception for the day. But if you go into the room and you're like, "Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? What's up, man? How are you?" And, shaking hands, giving hugs, and all that. The demeanor there, the perspective of that person is a lot more positive than the demeanor of the other person. And don't get me wrong, everybody wakes up different. Everybody, your bodies feel different. Your mind feels different. Your heart feels different. There's so many aspects of the mentality and the persona that you give off every single day. But how we look at it as a culture, is it's so backwards than what it should be. But in our bodies, this flesh, how we look at individuals every single day, it dictates how you act and you want to be perceived. Let me explain. And I'll be real fast. We're almost done with the setup. And we'll use the example of the room. I go into the room. I say hi to one person. I don't say hi to the other person. There's only 2 people in the room. And then I get started on whatever I'm going to do. 50% of the room has a bad taste in their mouth about me. Come in the room. The next person comes in the room. They say hi to person A, don't say hi to person B. And then they say hi to me. There's a bad taste in person B's mouth. Now 2 people have dissed her or him, whatever it is. And person number 4 comes in. Like, "What's up, Sherry? What up, what up, Luke?" And they don't say hi to Paul, and they don't say hi to Leon. Person number 2 is now thinking, am I getting fired? Am I being voted off the island? Whatever. And now maybe Leon's thinking, "Hey, Dave, oh, I didn't see you there, Leon." And then person number 2 says, "Hey, Dave." And it's like, hey, there's a persona. There's a difference. The atmosphere's changed. The atmosphere's grown toxic now. And so now a lot of reactions come from that. Let's shift gears. Now it's church. And, let's say family number 1 just lost someone. Family number 2, 1 day later, loses somebody. The preacher reaches out to family number 1, doesn't reach out to family number 2. The deacons at the church reach out to family number 2 and send them food. Family number 1 doesn't get anything. You see where it's going. And, and then another family loses somebody the next day and nobody reaches out to them. And all along, these dynamics are changing and stuff is happening and whatever, and there's a myriad of reasons why people, maybe even didn't get the news that somebody had lost somebody or whatever. But at the base of all of these situations is a fear or an anxiety that they are being dismissed, that they aren't being treated like everyone else, that there is some type of stigma attached to their name, and other people see it and everyone knows it but them. And in today's society, especially in our school children, it has gotten to the point where now they don't want to be here anymore. And I'm talking like alive. And that is such happening at such a high rate than what I remember. And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know that either the statistics have gone down or that I'm just reading too far into it. But I want you to understand something. One way or the other, the child of God should have a different perspective and a different personality and a different motivation than all of this. That us being hurt, us being just embarrassed, us being some type of just, I don't know, anxious, fear, all those kinds of things, it should not have that effect on us that it does. Stress has a lot to do with a lot of things. How you act under stress is, how it is the real you, honestly. The worst situation should bring out the most raw characteristics of your personality, of your character. Think about it. You want a good example? I preached on it today. Acts 28, Paul, who is shipwrecked, if you read the previous chapter, it goes way into depth about all the specifics about this particular voyage. A prisoner from the Romans, by the Romans, and for the Romans, and he is a Roman, is being taken on this voyage to go through his trial and all this other stuff, or go through whatever the proceedings are. And along the way, he ends up shipwrecked after trying to help in trying to give pointers and give instruction and all these other things, trying to help, ends up shipwrecked with everybody. And the prophecy that the Lord gave him about not losing a single person comes to pass. And the barbarians on this island make a fire for him. Paul's trying to stoke the fire and gets bit by a snake, a viper. And during this whole situation, as it all develops, worst case scenario, shipwreck, it's cold, it's wet, you got to be tired. He's trying to stoke the fire and help everybody. How many people were on the ship? I believe it was 246, I think it was, 256, something like that. It was over 200 people, I know that. I think it was over 260 something. So 276, I think is the right number. You look it up, prove me wrong. But that's a huge amount of people. That's a big old fire. But instead of just snuggling up next to the fire and trying to keep warm and letting everybody else stoke the fire, Paul's trying to get to work. His true character comes out. It's a rough situation to be in, and he's wanting to help. What's the point? What do we get from this? What do we glean from it? That when life gets rough, you can either sit down, clam up, let fear, let all the uncertainty, let anxiety, let all these other emotions, this it's all flesh, take over, and act like all is lost, fall deep into depression, or on the contrary, you can start making forward progress somewhere. I'm going to affect positive change where I can affect it. It's a great lesson. We're driven by fear when we should be driven by hope. We're driven by all this anxiety and all these other negative stimulations when we should be stimulated by the fact that we have a loving Heavenly Father who wants to do things for us, wants us to do things, will facilitate those things, because we're not doing it under our own power. Not one soul was lost on that ship. Why? Because God had protected them. Why does God protect people? For His glory. Why is He protecting you? Why is He facilitating you? If you're stepping into ministry and you think, man, I'm just going to do this all on my own, then you're sadly mistaken, because it's not a ministry unless you are doing it for the Lord. If you're doing it for the Lord, then it's His ministry and He will facilitate it. When I set out to do this podcast, I fully intended on getting a camper. And I had told my wife, and I'd been looking at different campers since 2020. I wanted a camper. Had it picked out. A Grey Wolf 23 MK Black Label. That's what it was. And I wanted it to be new enough where it had the Bluetooth and things like that, so I could run some stuff with my phone, the lighting and whatever, and check, whatever I can check, because technology, and I love techie stuff. And I fully intended on doing it. I had money set aside for it and all this other stuff. And I mean, this is a long time coming. We went and walked through the regular 23 MK, and then walked through the Black Label. And I made sure my wife got to see both of these. I watched videos. She watched the videos. We did the walkthroughs, reviews, all kinds of stuff. And finally went over here at Bob Ledford's. They had one, and walked through both of them. Walked through a couple other ones just for sanity checks, for similar layouts and things, but none of those checked the boxes, both of the boxes that my wife and I had, because I got to make her happy too. And we settled on this. It was a done deal. And as we drove around, we were doing things, milling around, the Lord had this podcast on my mind. And I'm talking like I couldn't shake it. And I wanted to, because I wanted the camper. One day I'm driving with the wife. I look over to her, and I could have cried. I said, baby, I gotta do a podcast. She said, what? I said, I can't get the camper. I gotta do the podcast. Like I said, I wanted to cry, because I had my heart set on that camper. My truck could pull it, had plans. I even know where we were going to go for the first camping trip, so that we could get everything laid out, see if we missed anything, get a process started, all that. And it was gone. And I didn't know what all I was going to do as far as what it was going to entail for the podcast, but I started doing my research. And I have a video on, it's on TikTok, of the studio. I did all kinds of studying, the cameras, everything from this camera. I've got 2 of these cameras. I'm going to get a third one, but 2 of these cameras. I got lights and this this Rodecaster Pro 2 and Rodecaster Video and this MacBook Pro and the whole Rode cords and all this and the mic stands and all that. And and the software and all the subscriptions and all this stuff, the rug under this thing, this desk and my chair and this couch and it just, like, I started studying. And I mean, some of the decorations came later and y'all can see that from whatever, but like literally when I committed, I just said, all right, Lord, show me what you want and put the image there and help me and guide me and lead me. And I just had this hunger and I wanted to learn more and know more and everything from, what program I use to edit and everything else. The external hard drive, even the memory cards. And then it all came together. If you remember, if you look back, here it is. When I come in here, I don't think, man, here's my camper. Honestly, it's a similar feeling as going to church. Because it's ministry. Now we're in 35 countries and over 200 cities worldwide in less than a year. And that's what God's done. Fear could have said, nope, we're sticking with the camper because I know how that's going to turn out. Fear would have said, well, don't spend money on anything because you never know how the economy's going to do and all of that. But how would that have glorified God? If you're launching into anything, or if you're hesitating to launch, you're going to have to do it. In Paul's case, it was sink or swim. It wasn't that he didn't have to paddle. God isn't going to paddle for you all the time. You're going to have to do some paddling to get to the shore. But he's going to preserve you. He's going to help you. He's going to give you a good tide. He's going to give you the wind to push you. And the barbarians built the fire. Paul didn't have to do that. But Paul made a positive decision to be positive, to push forward, to put sticks on the fire. And even when the adder or the viper struck him, God preserved him. And when he should have died, he lived. And that bewildered the people watching. But to the man or woman of God, that's exactly how it should have went. He's good. Because God is good. Listen, fear can put you in a box, but it's you that has the key to get out of the box. Anxiety can put you in a box. It can put you in that bed and you're just lying in the bed and you're depressed and you're anxious and you're hurting and you're whatever, and you're not going to get out unless you have to because you have to go to work and you have to earn a living and you have to get groceries and all those kinds of things. And you can limit yourself as much as you want to through fear, anxiety, and all of that. Or you can say, I'm not the sum of my emotions. I am the son or I'm the daughter of the one true King. And push forward. That's up to you. I love you. God loves you. This has been the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson.